So now we're going to discuss why letting go of whatever trauma you've experienced is not an easy thing to do. And so sometimes when we experience a trauma, like I've talked about before, we don't really process it. We kind of push it to the side. And there's something called resiliency, which we'll talk about later, which is a superpower that happens and comes out of experiencing your trauma once you've worked through it. But we have these mechanisms that we have created as children to cope with even the smallest of stressors. And a lot of times you'll hear people say, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or everything's going to be fine, don't worry about it. The issue is what we've talked about before as complex trauma or complex PTSD, is that as trauma happens to you, it's also about what you've told yourself when that trauma occurs. And that's what we call negative cognitions. So if you've told yourself it's your fault, or you've told yourself, oh my gosh, I was so stupid for putting myself in that situation, or you've told yourself, my gosh, I should have made a different decisions, I can never do anything right. These are called negative cognitions. And so when we tell ourselves things like that, that's what's kind of sticking to that trauma. So as we go through life and we experience other things, that same negative cognition may come back. And so it keeps amplifying and amplifying and amplifying. And then it becomes this template with who we think we are, with these things that we've told ourselves. And that starts impacting our confidence, our self-worth. We might, have depression from that. And we might experience PTSD symptoms from that. So trauma is super complex. Now, I'm not saying there aren't things that happen to us that, we're like, oh my gosh, that was so uncomfortable. I don't feel good about that at all. But then you talk to your friends or you talk to your therapist and you've worked through it. But there's the other ones that are rooted deeply in us. And a lot of times that's because of that negative cognition that we've associated with that. And that's why sometimes we can't let it go. So if you're feeling that, if you're having these experiences where you're talking poorly to yourself, sit with that for a minute. Write that out and say, why am I saying these things to myself? Why do I see myself through that lens? Rationally, I know that I'm confident and I'm a good person and that wasn't my fault, but I'm really stuck there. And that's something you can work on with your primary therapist, with a support group, or even discuss with those that care about you, where you feel that's a safe place for you to divulge that. But don't keep it inside. That will keep you stuck. Thanks again for joining me today with Tea Time with Dr. T, and I hope everybody has a beautiful day.